Hi, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're just going to wait one more minute to let some others join us on the Zoom. If you want to drop in the chat box where you're joining us from, we love to hear that. Ooh, we've got California, New Jersey, Indiana. Welcome. Yeah, let us know in the chat where you're joining us from.
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Vicky from Canada. Welcome. So just a quick introduction. Thank you so much for tuning in to tonight's virtual program from the American Visionary Art Museum, our virtual studio tour with artist Wayne Kusy. We are in for a treat tonight. Just a few things to keep in mind. Please use the chat box for questions and I will be moderating. So if you have any questions while we're doing the studio tour, just put them in the chat and I will get your question to Wayne. He is going to be doing a little demo with Toothpicks at the end-ish of our studio tour, so have those handy if you would like to participate. And again, this is a free program put on by the American Visionary Art Museum. If you feel so inclined to make a donation, we'll post the link in the chat box for you to do that on our website. And so without further ado, we are going to hear a quick welcome from AVAM's founder, director, and principal curator, the one and only Rebecca Hofberger.
Oh, Becca, thank you so much. And I wanted to welcome everybody. Particularly, I see so many of our docents, our volunteer docents, and I know that they are so excited because one of the most cherished works that we have in our permanent collection from the very first show, The Tree of Life, is Wayne Kusy's Lusitania. I was telling Wayne just before you all joined us that museums for many people are places that a lot of people don't like to go to. And ours makes a great bridge between people who are gung-ho and their spouses or friends who really don't like museums. And then when they get to Wayne Kusy's Lusitania, they're smitten because there is something about just that goes back to all of our childhoods, where we're given, whether it's popsicle sticks or some, toothpicks, anything just very basic. And we have our first attempt at constructing something. And I think when I think of the whole amazing trajectory of Wayne's life, I think of the quote by Maya Angelou. I want to read it to get it right. But she said, if one is lucky, a solitary fantasy can totally transform 1 million realities. So just think of all the teachers who thought that you were a good writer or that you had potential in math or potential in art or did something that made you might be a good scientist, those moments are pure gold. So to the teachers, to the families, to the art fans out there, I want you to spend all the rest of your time tonight with Wayne Kusy, who we all admire so very much. So Wayne, thank you for inviting us into your studio and your home tonight, and for giving us the privilege of this quarter of a century of being able to be a home to your Lusitania.
Thank you, Rebecca. I'm just going to share the image of the Lusitania just in case you haven't seen it in person or you haven't seen it lately, part of AVAM's permanent collection. And Wayne, you might have to unmute your audio.
I just want to tell you, Wayne, since then, Bob on our team has made an incredible case around it. We took that off just for the photo opportunity, so it's well protected.
So Wayne, can you hear us? So Wayne, show us what you have going on behind you. So Wayne, what are we looking at here? Who are these people?
Wood Zeppelin.
Yes, this is a model of a rock and roll band called Zeppelin. It's totally made out of toothpicks. And this is pretty much my latest thing that I've been working on over the past like 2 or 3 years. And it's allowed me to work with toothpicks and also allowed me to put a little bit more of my programming talents into developing animations. So Wood Zeppelin is an animation. It's a rock and roll band animation. And what you see here in front of you are the drum kit. That's that's the drum kit. You'll see more of that later. But basically just stuff I've been working on over the past 2 or 3 years.
Wow. That's really amazing. So can they, do you animate them? They can move?
Yes, if you go to woodzeppelin.com, there's animations there.
Yeah,
And
no, that's going to drop that link so everybody can check that out. There we go.
yeah, so so there's a whole bunch of them. There's like snippets, and also we did a music video. So Wood Zeppelin's not just a toothpick animation, it's also an actual band. So every once in a while we pretty much get together and have a gig or so and play in public and all that.
That's amazing. I love that sun. When did you start making things out of toothpicks?
It started when I was in 5th grade. We had an ongoing project where we had to build art out of household utensils, and worked with popsicle sticks, oatmeal, macaroni, popsicle sticks, just tons of stuff that you can find at home. And the very last elements that we worked with were toothpicks. And I remember at the very tail end of 8th grade, that was our last part of the program. So I started building like TPs and everything. I don't know if I did very well in the class, but I remember when I took the project home, unlike the other things that I had worked on where I had thrown it away after like 2 or 3 days, this one I actually held on to it, and I kept on building onto it for weeks and held on to it for the whole summer. And by the time 6th grade came around, I already had plans to build my first ship. So yeah, it was like a big eye-opening thing for me. I don't know why. I kept working on it. I was back when I was very young, I was big into TV, and I just stopped watching television. I just kept working on it. I think it was a way to kind of like filter out the sounds of the world. It's something where I can just immerse myself into something, creativity, and and it made me feel extremely proud. After I built something, I was just very, very ecstatic about it, and it just made me want to build another one. So after, I'd say about 2 or 3 years, I had about 2 or 3 ships built, and the ships were basically just figments of my imagination, as you could say. I didn't build them after any particular ship, but they were like clipper ships. And the only thing I can say is that there's something about doing it that just kept me going. And it, unlike other kids at the time who went outside and played basketball on the basketball court, hung out, I just stayed at home. I stayed at home and made sure that my project got done. And sometimes, to the gruntling of my mother, because I blew off a couple of homework projects too. So, ever since that time, it's just been a big inspiration. I've been learning ever since. It's not like I've done everything yet, but it's just been something I've always enjoyed.
Wayne, what is the beard made out of on your bandmates up there? That was a good question.
I took some very thin wire. And, what I did was I wrapped it around a dowel rod.
Mhm.
When you pulled it away from the dowel rod, it looked like a slinky. And then when you pulled the slinky away and stretched it a little bit, I would cut it and then put all the little slinky things onto the chin, making like a beard. And then after I got everything glued, and we're talking about 3 days, that beard, what you see there is like 3 days worth of work. So I would take like some paint and I would just gingerly go over the beard. So it gave it kind of like a tint, like kind of like a salt and pepper beard and everything. The eyebrows, all toothpicks. The eyes are all toothpicks. The hair is made from kite string. The hats, those are made from socks. Uh,
I love your use of materials is really inspiring, because you're still using like everyday things, which is amazing.
yes, yes. Just mostly just old clothes that I've thrown out. You know, I started to save them, like old socks. You know, like I have there's this washing machine where I live that kind of like steals all my socks, or at least one of them. So I end up with like 20 orphan socks, and I figured why not build a band out of toothpicks with it, or at least clothe them and everything. So just to give a little narration here, when you look at the buildings there, those are made from toothpicks as well, but they're big toothpicks. I forgot what you call them though. um, yes, there we go. So those buildings are made from sandwich sticks. So if you ever been to a restaurant and you see this big thing in your sandwich, you know that is a big sandwich stick. So I was able to get a bunch of those for free, and I just layered them onto some cardboard and created a city out of them. So what you see in front of you there is basically just something that ended up in my animation. So, if you look at some of the animations that I've done, you'll see that some of these buildings are going to show up in there, and it's like a big city block, a Chicago city block.
Love that. We have a question in the chat. Alex wants to know, what's the biggest piece that you've ever created, your biggest work of art?
The biggest piece I ever built was a 25-foot model of the Queen Mary, and that is built in 6 sections, and it took a very long time to build, as you could probably imagine. But it also went on a bunch of exhibits. So there were times when I had no access to the actual ship, where I only had access to parts of the ship because other people wanted them for a show or something like that. So I think it took about 6 years to build. And like I said, I built it in 6 different sections, and I never, as I was constructing it, I never had it in one big piece. I never had it assembled as a whole. So when I got my first exhibit for it, there was a risk of it looking like a freak. I wasn't really sure if it was going to look good or not. But when I got it over there, all my calculations were correct, and I did all this with like a school ruler and all that.
Wow, we should have been working on things like this while we were in quarantine. What have we been doing? You've really used your time wisely.
Yeah, I'd like to get our camera guy in here and show off like some of the artillery, some of the things I built. And it was actually a ship here that was at the AVM Museum, the inaugural exhibit.
What are we looking at?
Okay. So so I also build these big ships other than computer animation. And one of the ships that you see here was actually at the AVM Museum a couple of years back. So in this photo here, you'll see that when I build these ships, they're made from a skeletal frame. And so it's kind of like a big roller coaster of just toothpicks going into a form that makes a form of a ship. So that's how I build all my big ships. It comes from like a big skeletal frame. And as you see the ship now, yeah, this is a couple of years later, I finally finished it and cloned it. And everything seems to be working good. I got the masts on. So I don't have it fully rigged right now because the masts are so big that they would actually take up this whole room. And can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, sorry for the technical difficulties.
No problem. It's a new world that
We're actually in a band called the Technical Difficulties. Anyway,
I just have a question, Wayne. Do you sketch out like the structure underneath, or do you just go for it? How does that work when you're doing the inside of the ship?
the inside of the ship is like a big skeletal framework, and it's basically almost like light air inside there. And as I work on the ship, I clad it with toothpicks. So when we do a live demonstration, I'm going to show you how I build it and how I clad all this stuff with toothpicks here.
Wow. That's great.
So we're going to go to a bigger ship. I'm going to turn my light around. If you don't.
Are these heavy? How heavy are these ships? What are we talking here?
I think that the ship that you're looking at right now is about 100 pounds.
Oh my God.
So this is the SS America. I completed it, I think about 4 or 5 years ago. And it's about 14 feet long, almost as long as the Lusitania. And it's basically a modern ship, kind of, is built in the late 1930s. I mostly specialize in ships that were built between 1895 and 1895 and 1925. And the reason why I like that era is because the ships were made like palaces. They didn't really care too much about how they looked, but they were just, beautiful ships that had lots of weather decks, lots of open spaces, lots of crazy stuff that you would never see on ships today. Today, ships are so streamlined. There's nothing interesting about them, but those ships, there's plenty of things that are interesting. So I'm gonna, as I'm talking here, I'm gonna show you some of the things that I do with the ships. As I mentioned before, I build them in pieces.
Oh my God.
So this is kind of like the forward section of the ship. And as you're looking inside, you can see the skeletal framework that I build before I clad the ship with toothpicks.
Wow.
So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to the ship, and I'm going to show you how I build things independently of the ship. So when I build these ships, I build them in not only sections, but I build them in pieces. So it makes it easier for transportation. So just give me 1 second, and hopefully if nothing happens, I'll be over there in 1 second.
Great.
Okay. So hopefully you can still hear me.
We can hear you. Yes.
Okay. So if you look at the ship, a lot of the features are easily removed. And if you look inside, the ships are basically just more skeletal structure. And everything here is all cladded. So what I do is I brick all the toothpicks in place to give it kind of like a seamless look.
And then you paint afterward, I assume?
Could you repeat that, please?
Oh, do you paint afterward, like after everything is put together?
Yes, I do. So what I do is when I build it, I shellac it with glue. I paint it with glue so that it kind of like covers up all the crevices and everything. And then I sand it down really good. So it kind of makes it smoother. It actually makes it look like a real ship too. And Oh, let's see, what else? I'm gonna pull up another lifeboat for you. So the lifeboats here, they're built independently, just like everything else of the ship. And it makes it a lot easier for me because I can build multiple items and not have to worry about while other items are drying. So I can make like maybe 6 or 7 different lifeboats all at the same time and not really have to worry about, you know, whether something else dried or not and how much time I have to complete it. And all the lifeboats in this case are numbered. I think this is starboard 2. So this way I know what part of the ship that they go to. And so that's like I said, that is the big ships that I've been working on over the past couple of years. They've gotten better, I think, in certain ways because they're easier to get out of my house. I don't have to worry about smashing them so much. So here's another cool thing. And like I was saying earlier, one of the things I liked about building these ships is the fact that they're kind of like palaces, and there's a lot of architecture involved in it. So this is kind of like a wing bridge. What a wing bridge is, this is where the captain goes inside and, you know, he looks on the side of the ship, see what's going on and everything. And these wing bridges are very difficult to build. It's round, yeah, but it's still all toothpicks, you know, with the exception of like this little light here. I think that's supposed to be a spotlight. That's partly like dowel rod and everything inside here. So, you know, this stuff here is what makes it worth it because you can see all the intricate design work and everything. That's what turns me on. Is just building these small little things and making it look really cool. And then when you build the whole ship, when you glue everything on the real ship, it looks even cooler.
Yeah. I just have a question. It looks like that's half of the ship. Where's the other half?
Could you repeat that, please?
Where's the other half of that ship?
It's in the other room where the where the band members. I couldn't build it in. I couldn't put it together because it would just take up too much room. A lot of the ships that I build, they consume a lot of space, and this one really consumes a lot of space. So you know that's pretty much where it is. It's in the other room. Maybe if we have a chance to go in there, I can stand it up on end. Or I can show it what it looks like when you stand it up on end.
Here's a good question. Where or how did you learn like all the details of these ships?
If you go to instructing my friend Garrett to go to the thing that I have on my wall here. Let me get on the other side. So what you see are deck plans. And these are deck plans to like ocean liners. And I figure out how to build them from just purchasing these deck plans. I either purchase them online. A lot of times they're free. And the only thing I have to do is just download them from the internet. But the deck plans that you see right here, they're for a future ship I'm planning to build called the SS Bremen. I actually went to Germany and I did a TV show over there too, because they were interested. Why are you so interested in our ships? And then I told them, well, I'm going to build a model of it out of Toothpicks. And they're like, huh? And once I told them, then I got on this show called Bremen. So once I get the deck plans, it gives me an idea of the form of the hull. And then I build that big skeleton that I've been showing you. So once I get the skeleton done, then I clad it with Toothpicks. So we're going to be heading towards that for my demo, and hopefully that will shed some light on how I do all this. But one more stop, Mr. Lane, come on over here.
Got it.
Okay, kids. So we're back. We're back with Wood Zeppelin. So like I said, in the past couple of years, I have been taking kind of like a hiatus from my my Toothpick ocean liner building to do something a little bit different. And I decided I'm going to start working with smaller characters. So what makes this totally different is the fact that you know, with my ocean liners, I build them from known deck plans and blueprints. They've basically been already built. I'm just replicating them, and I'm reliving the glory of the, you know, the intricacies and all the passion it took to build them. But here, I'm coming up with ideas how to build a band, and you know, so just how to build scaffolding and everything like that. So let me get over to Garrett, and I'll show you the characters real fast, and then I'll show you a short little video clip. It won't take long. Okay, so this is Willie. Willie is a member of a two-piece band called the Blues Scrapers. They play blues music. And if you're familiar with the Chicago skyline, it's that's Willis Towers. And if you look in here, here's some of the members of Wood Zeppelin. This is the drummer. That is the amplifier, or one of them anyway. There is my favorite bar called the Gallery Cabaret. I actually built a model of it. And not to mention all the scaffolding here. And there's the John Hancock building. There's Johnny. He's the second part of the Blues Scrapers. I'm going to build other characters too. I'm going to build like 2 rats. We got a lot of rats in Chicago, so I figured I might as well celebrate our rat population by building models of them, have them blow the harmonica and play guitar, and include them in the Wood Zeppelin, expand our characters and everything. So one interesting footnote here. So prior to me doing this meeting with you guys, I've been doing some similar meetings with high schools. And some of the kids in the high schools, they've been teaching me a thing or two about how to build things with toothpicks. So if you look at this really fast, this is a holiday Christmas tree made of toothpicks. I actually built it on my own, but it was inspired by kids trying to do the same thing as I did when I was in 5th grade. So it all goes to show you there's many different ways to build these goofy little toothpick things, but this actually came out really nice. And I'm thinking of doing more of this, you know, and just, you know, maybe possibly building a whole toothpick for us. You never know.
I love that idea.
Okay, so the next stop is we're gonna do our live like demonstration. So let me get behind my demonstration here. All right. So whenever I work with any kind of toothpicks, I have to build them in tubes. And I usually work with like flat toothpicks and square toothpicks, but I also use some round toothpicks too. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my favorite glue.
What is your favorite glue?
It's called Titebond 2.
Okay.
It is a wood glue. I used to use Elmer's, but it was very fragile, and I thought it was wise pretty much not to work with it, because the bigger the ships were, the more likely they were to fall apart. So for me to work with these toothpicks, I have to build them in bigger units. And if you check out what I'm doing here, I'm taking 2 toothpicks and I'm going to glue them together in tubes, like so. And I'm going to put them in a completed pile there. Do it again. And once I go through a whole box of toothpicks, I'll have a larger building unit that's easier, I should say, to work with. So once these are done, then what I do, I cut the ends off of them. So I take the very tip ends off of them and just cut them off like that. And then I build a pile of them like that. And one one of the foundations of what I do is the fact that these things are all symmetrical. And if you can master this, you can pretty much master almost anything. So right now, I'm working on a project where I'm building CD cases out of Toothpicks. And I figured this would be a great demonstration for you because it also gives you an idea of how I build the bigger ships. So, pretend like these are kind of like skeletal frames here. And these frames are also built with toothpicks. They're also built with these planks. So when I glue these things together in tubes, I call them planks for lack of a better term. So once I got the planks glued together in tubes, as you can see here, and once I got the points taken off, then I glue them together, layer them like bricks like this, and after you do a bunch of them, they get pretty long. So I'll show you what it's going to look like when it's done. So this is what it's going to look like when it's done. And so I'm going to build a bunch of them. And that's what I did here. I built a bunch of them. So, so this is a CD case. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all these planks that I built and I'm going to brick them in. So they're kind of like, they kind of counterpoint each row. So you build them in rows. Hopefully you guys can understand what I'm saying.
Yes. Where do you get all your toothpicks, or are they sending them to you for free? Do you have a sponsor?
No. Actually, I still have to buy them every once in a while. A couple of years ago, a 5th grade art class donated me 1 million toothpicks. And as part of I think a 5th grade mathematics project in which they gathered 1 million toothpicks just to figure out how much space it would take. And then after the class was over, they had to get rid of it. They saw me on TV and they thought, hey, let's give it to that guy. So I ended up with like about 3,500 boxes of toothpicks. And I didn't say no. So as I started getting into these different types of toothpicks, I started realizing, there's better ways to build this stuff with bigger toothpicks. I used to use only flat toothpicks. Now I use square toothpicks. They're a little heavier, but they're very strong. So I'm building a second row here. And I'm going to put one more on there.
What about round toothpicks? Do you use those for anything, or?
What kind of toothpicks?
Round, like the round.
Oh yeah, for the decks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so when I build the ships, they need decks, right? No toothpicks. If you look at the deck of that ship over there, take a close look, Garrett. You'll see those are round toothpicks. Good old Garrett.
Thank you, Garrett. Oh, I see. Wow.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yes, I use round. I use pretty much anything that's like strong, and I use it for infrastructure purposes, or just to like build deck head or bulkheads or something like that. So once I get all this done, it's going to look like this, and I'm going to have a CD case. Voila! So this is part of Wood Zeppelin. We recorded some music. And I'm building CD cases, just 100 though. I'm not going to do 10,000 of them or anything like that. So that gives you an idea of how I build the ships. So just like you saw how I was like bricking the toothpicks into like certain rows and counterpointing them, that's what I do with the ships. I clad them on the sides by doing it the same way. It's the same method, but different types of toothpicks.
Now, if you're building something 3D, do you have to like brace it, or do you like glue everything down flat and then let it dry?
Well, there's several things that I do. I go out and buy some like toothpick, or excuse me, buy some like little clamps. They're like, I think you could buy them at like an Office Depot or something like that. And what it is that, you know, there's the same type of clamps that kind of like hold, yes, like those. Yeah.
Oh, bulldog clip.
Yeah. There you go, Garrett. Thank you, Garrett. So what they do, they hold everything in place. And sometimes I use those little twisties that you get on bread. I don't know if you ever, you know, you buy a loaf of bread, there's like a little twisty, and you undo the twisty, and that way you can get your bread out of the loaf of bread there. So I saved those. I got hundreds of them laying around, but I kind of use those twisties to hold things into place while it's drying. In fact, much of my work still has twisties in them. If you, the ship I have to the left of me, it actually has like about 100 twisties still in there somewhere, but there's no bread in there. So
So you just reminded me, I think that's like a rumor that some of our docents talk about, is that there are things inside of the Lusitania at the museum. Do you think that's true?
Oh,
Like,
yes, it is. I remember I dropped a couple of pins in there in an X-Acto knife. And I tried, you know, every time I drop something in there, yeah, you know, like I said, when you're building something like that, it's like a big skeleton. It's like dropping it into a roller coaster of like toothpicks. Sometimes I'm able to get it out. Sometimes it just stays stuck in there. So I think in the Lusitania, I think I remember that there's like an X-Acto knife and a few pens. There might be other things in there too. All my ships have that. All my ships are something that got lost in there. There's no way to take it out. Even that small ship that I was showing you earlier, that's a model of the SS United States. There's like a little, I forgot what it was. I dropped a little, someone sent me a crystal, like a quartz crystal or something like that. And somehow I got lodged in there, and it's in there forever. So this kid I'm sending it to in Philadelphia, not only will you get a ship that's 16,000 toothpicks, but you'll get a quartz crystal. So hopefully that'll be bringing good luck and everything. So let me show you some other cool things you can do.
yeah, we do. We have a question from Rebecca.
Sure. Yeah.
How do you achieve a curve, like a curve with a toothpick? Do you bend them? Do you soak them first?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so here's what we do. So a lot of people ask me, how do you bend these things? Do you boil them in water? That's a common thing that a lot of people think, and I always tell them no. Boil them in water, you know, they're more likely not to stay in shape. So what I do is it's a process called, what is the process called? Scoring. That's it, scoring. So I take pliers, and then I take one of my toothpick planks. Like I said, I build them in twos, and then I grab it. I grab the toothpick. I don't break it. I grab it, and then I turn it. See that? Then I go about 3 millimeters to the left, and I do it again, and I keep on doing it. I'll do it real fast for you. The square toothpicks are very easy to work with. Flat toothpicks, they always break on me. And so there's your round circle.
That's amazing. That's like magic, toothpick magic.
Yeah, it is magic. So if you look on the SS America to the left of me, if you look at the little round things on the deck there, that's how I did them.
Wow.
So and sometimes, like I said, when I put a bunch of planks together like this, you could do cool stuff like curving them, or scoring them like this. And then reversing the process like this. Oh my God, I think I broke it, but don't use flat toothpicks for this, but you can do all different types of things with it.
Wow.
And I'm going to go the other way. Whoops. So like I said, it's called scoring. Scoring is a terminology that's used in printing. So if you're familiar with offset printing, what they do is they score a piece of paper to make it easier to fold. So there's something in the printing press that puts a dent in the piece of paper where it is supposed to fold and makes it easier for a machine to fold it. Okay, so let me show you some other cool stuff.
Yeah. Wayne, we have about like 5 to 7 minutes left.
Oh, cool.
So fast. So if you have some last minute things to show us, and if anyone has any burning questions.
Yeah, I'll show, maybe I can show you the video.
Yeah, I think we have time. Yeah, we have time for a little video.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, like I said, sorry for the technical problems and everything. But
Oh my gosh.
okay.
Wow.
Can you see the video?
We can see the video. We also will, is this on your YouTube channel?
Yes, it is.
We're going to drop that link in the chat as well so everybody can.
Cool.
Oh my gosh. How long did it take you to make this video?
Well, just that portion of it took about 4 months.
Oh my God.
There's a lot of photography involved in it, and just lots of, building stuff out of toothpicks and all that stuff. So if you see those titles there, they're made from my toothpick typewriter.
Oh wow, you have all the letters.
Yeah. So what I did was I made 26 letters of the alphabet. I scanned them into a scanner, and then I put them through Photoshop. So all the titles that you see on there are actually done from a computer. So I type something in there, and then the titles come up. So you type like Wayne Kusy into a form, then my name will come up as the as the title and everything. So ask questions away, please.
Yeah, any last minute questions? We just have a lot of comments. Your creations are amazing, wonderful. We think a Titebond glue should sponsor you.
They are a sponsor of mine. They give me free glue.
That's amazing. Let's see. Any last minute questions before we sign off? Did you write the music for your band?
I did.
You did?
Yes, I'm a musician.
Wow.
I think. I'm more an artist than a musician. When I listen to music, I listen to it differently than most people. Most people they'll listen to like something really heavy, not really understand why they like it. Whereas somebody like me, when I listen to music, something like David Bowie or the Beatles, there's like a method, there's like a system of what they're doing that I recognize. So I see the system of the music that they're doing, whereas a lot of bands are just being loud and obnoxious and everything like that. Not to say that it's bad. I like loud and obnoxious music too every once in a while. But I like music where it makes you use your head. It's kind of like if you ever heard of Monty Python's Flying Circus, yeah. It's a comedy that makes you try to like understand why is that funny. Why are people laughing at that? Then you start to realize there's like thought involved. You have to understand there's a concept of laughter in there that really that really got me into Monty Python. So now I don't listen to I don't laugh anymore at anybody's stupid jokes. It's got to be Monty Python. That makes sense.
We have just 2 questions I was thinking would be good. Sure. Jamie's asking, what sparked your interest in the ship specifically? I can't remember if you mentioned that at the beginning.
Well, I think when I was a kid, I heard about the Titanic. And I fell in love with it just like everybody else did. It's like a novel, except it actually happened. And after that, I started looking at those old ships like the Titanic. They looked really weird. And at first I thought, God, those are really weird looking ships. They don't look like the stuff we have today. But one thing I realized is that they're very complicated. When you look at like the Lusitania, for example, you could tell I got into building that because I made sure that those open weather decks, I made sure that they stayed straight and nice and everything. That's why I build them, because the complexity and just imitating their art, because that thing is sunk in right off the coast of Ireland. You'll never see it unless you got a diving bell or something like that. But now you'll be able to see it, or at least, you know, get a sample of what it used to look like.
And one last question: do any other museums have any of your creations other than the AVAM?
Yes, there's a museum in Southern Illinois called the American Museum of Model Ships, and it's down near Champaign, Urbana. So there's one down there. There's another museum in where the heck is it located at? I'm drawing a blank here. Sorry about that. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. The Philharmonic Museum in Naples, Florida, that has a Titanic. So I have one down there. I built a schooner for the village of Algonquin. So I had something over there. And I also, when I went to Germany, I had to build like a sample ship, and kind of like a small ship, so the camera crews can see how I build them. And so I left that ship over there with a friend. So it's over there. And I got this other ship I'm working on. It's like the ocean liner I was showing you. It's a small little bitty ocean liner that's going out to Philadelphia. And there's one over there going out to California. It keeps me busy, you know?
I can imagine. Well, Wayne, do you have any last words or tips or thoughts for our audience before we sign off?
Well, the only thing I could say is thank you, people, for coming out.
I think it went great, and we hope to come for a visit again soon.
Oh, sure. I'd be welcome. And I'll be better prepared this time too, I think.
All right, thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Have a good night.